I recently just finished listening to an episode of one of my favorite podcasters. His name is Eddie Pinero. And Eddie, if there's a day that comes where you end up listening to this somehow, I give you all the props in the world. As you like to say, you've been my North Star a lot of times over the past few years. He was basically discussing the idea of you've overcome in the past, and so it's time to do it again. And he talks about, not being complacent with your past victories and to keep, moving forward, not to just sort of be proud of yourself and stay status quo. And he says in the podcast a couple of things. He says that he'll never become who he's supposed to be, and I completely get what he's saying. He's basically saying, never to be complacent. So no matter what obstacle you might surpass, overcome, as he also likes to often say, then that ceiling becomes your floor, and you continue to move from there. I think one thing I'd like to just mention about that, though, is that you and he and we all are exactly who we're supposed to be, at this moment in time, whenever this moment is. And I know for a fact that he would agree with me, because he mentions multiple times how it's everything that you've been through that leads you to where you are today, which is exactly where you're supposed to be. So I'm not saying anything different than what he believes as well. I just want to hammer home this point a little bit. Regardless of successes, regardless of failures, regardless of everything, and actually, I'm sorry, not regardless, because of all of these things, you are a sum total of your past choices and actions, and you're exactly who you're supposed to be at this exact moment. And it's exactly who you're supposed to be now that is able to take that next step forward. And in his podcast, he's basically pointing out, listen, you've come across a lot of hardships in the past and you've overcome them, so do it again. And he asks another question. He asks, what is it that you once did that scared the hell out of you? Well, I'd like to get a little personal with that. I am an addict, and I've been struggling with it my entire adult life, as a lot of addicts do. And just under 6 years ago, my specific poison was alcohol. And I thought I would never stop. I honestly didn't believe I could. And I'm sure in future podcasts, I'll go into a little more detail about these things. I was at the point where I was puking blood. I was having conversations in my mind, or I should say I was imagining conversations in my mind of what my kids would be discussing with their significant others, in the future. I imagined them sitting across the table talking about how, my dad died of alcohol, and I guess I just gave in to the fact that I was not able to stop. I was going to die because of it, and I somehow accepted that. And so again, he asks the question, what is it that we once did, or I once did, that scared the hell out of me? Well, actually telling somebody that I was an alcoholic, which happened to be my brother-in-law, a really great guy, and someone who I probably, in a way, couldn't have told anyone else. And that was something that scared the hell out of me, because I didn't think I could survive without the alcohol. And then Eddie in his podcast, he discusses, well, you were brave once, you can be brave again. And a lot of times we hear these ideas, we hear of how to be great, and it's hard to actually imagine specifically in our lives doing that. Well, let me tell you something. I haven't had an alcoholic drink in almost 6 years. However, what I did end up doing was eventually turning to drugs, and as a true addict does, it couldn't just stay, the once in a while social type of taking drugs. It became every day, every hour. I found myself in the place that I was, almost 6 years earlier, where I couldn't seem to imagine doing anything without taking drugs. And I didn't think I could stop. And there I was, exactly where I had found myself just under 6 years ago. And I didn't think I could stop it again. I really didn't. I didn't think I had the strength. I know for people who aren't addicts, this might not resonate quite as much in terms of understanding. But let me just tell you, it's the hardest fucking thing in the world to stop. And I can tell you that as of 19 days ago, I went through the fire again, and I did it. And so listening to this podcast earlier, it just resonated with me in a way that, I couldn't have imagined having gone through this quote fire before. And then I hear Eddie ask the question, what scares the hell out of you, and what fire did you go through before, and now do it again? And I'm here to tell you, whatever yours is, whatever your fears are, whatever part of you is telling you you can't do it, even if it's not the first time, and even if it's not the first time of the same thing, I am here to tell you, 19 days ago today, that I did it, and if I can do it, then you can do it. And I swear I did not think I could, even once. But here I am. By chance, in the following episode, he mentioned that he started his podcast in 2014, and didn't know anything about business, didn't know anything about podcasts. He pretty much says, quote, knew very little about life. Well, I'm similar to him in that I don't know anything about podcasts. I know very little about business. But what I do know a lot about is life. I know about marriage, and as we speak, I'm learning about divorce. I know about kids. I know about failing kids, and I'm learning about hopefully regaining trust. I know a lot about ups and downs and can and cannots, and I hope to convey a lot of this throughout future podcasts. But I swear to you, whatever it is that you may be thinking you cannot accomplish, you cannot do, it was too hard the first time and you just don't have it in you a second time, I'm here to tell you that you literally can do anything. And it sounds easier said than done, but it's also not. It's just a matter of deciding to. That's it. You have a choice. You can choose to decide, I can or I can't. But I want you to know, whatever is going through your mind, whatever you're convincing yourself of, I promise you, you can. you're fooling yourself. You're literally tricking yourself if you somehow come to the conclusion that you can't. And I hope from this episode that you see there's literally nothing stopping you but yourself. You get to decide to stop stopping yourself.